Bake Shop, and today we're going to be looking at the modeling chocolate from Satin Ice. Now the modeling chocolate that I have here, this one is for rolling and coverage. So I didn't even know there was a difference, but we're going to be trying this one out. And the one that Aria is holding is for when you do like your fondant figures or your fondant flowers. So we're actually going to be making a teacup cake today. It's going to be a teacup and the whole thing is going to be completely made out of cake and then adorned with modeling chocolate. So let's get into it.
So Aria was really inspired when we saw this little girl on Instagram decorating her own cakes, and she's only 3 years old. She is absolutely amazing, and so Aria wanted to learn the tricks of the trade. So I am first starting with making sure I'm leveling off the cakes and telling her to keep that knife in one place, and then I'm also showing her how to pour on that sugar syrup. Now we're going to be crumb coating the cakes with some Oreo Buttercream, which is actually used with a mix of my Italian meringue buttercream and some of the buttercream frosting mix from Satin Ice. And this is why I absolutely love working with kids, and especially my own daughter at that, because I realized that some of my instructions weren't super clear. So even though I thought that they were clear, she interpreted them in a different way. So it really taught me that I need to give different instructions in multiple ways. So one of the things that she found challenging was actually making sure that she had the right amount of pressure on that buttercream, not too soft and not too hard. And leveling off the cake too was a little bit of a challenge. Also, the spatulas were huge, so we did have to switch up and make sure that we were using a spatula that was a little bit more appropriate in size for her. I finished up the crumb coat on this next cake because, as we know, anything that is of a different shape other than a rounded cake can be a little bit more challenging. We placed those in the fridge and then we got started on actually working with the modeling chocolate. Now, if you've never worked with modeling chocolate before, it very much differs from the texture of fondant. It also has a really great taste. I personally prefer eating modeling chocolate over fondant. I will say it is a little bit of a challenge to work with, especially if you live in a humid or hot environment. Luckily, I am in air conditioning right now, so everything is staying nice and cool. And we're just going to place that on. And you'll notice it does act like fondant, but it does have a meltier quality. And like I had mentioned earlier, I really didn't know there was a difference between covering modeling chocolate and just the regular modeling chocolate. But when I used this particular formula, it was a lot easier to actually do coverage with the cake. The other formula is a little bit more oily and it's a little bit more susceptible to things melting. But this makes sense as using modeling chocolate really helps you meld things together and smooth things out. Now I'm showing Ari how to actually cut things out of fondant, just making 2D shapes, and we're going to be making a whole bunch of flowers, which we're going to cover this whole base with. To make this light pink color, I mixed in some white fondant with some of that hot pink modeling chocolate. It actually creates a really nice texture, perfect for cutting out shapes, and having that nice chocolatey flavor as well. As Ari works with those punch cutters, I'm going to be finishing covering up the teacup, and I did actually use the regular modeling chocolate for that, and it worked really nicely. Now, I didn't put any support underneath that teacup, but the only reason is because I'm going to be consuming this right away. I'm just going to be giving it to my mom. So instead, I just put it right on top. But if you're going to actually sell something like this, definitely make sure that you put support and a little board in the center. Here is where Ari was learning how to make little roses out of fondant, and she did a pretty good job. The rolling part was really tricky because obviously if you roll it too hard, it just ends up looking like a roll instead of a flower. After adhering a dotting of pearls all along the bottom of our cake inside of those little daisies, Ari had enough cake decorating for the day. So I am finishing up just using a bunch of different mediums. I'm using some of the modeling chocolate, I'm using some of the fondant, I'm using some of the fondant mixed with modeling chocolate to finish up all of these roses on top. I'm using the green modeling chocolate, which, as I mentioned before, it's the covering chocolate, but it works just as well too for little details like this. I'm using punch cutters for this. I have a whole set of different size leaves, which I really think is a good investment, especially if you do a lot of flowers. But you can also use fondant molds for this as well. The modeling chocolate will pop out super easily. To make the little handle on the teacup, I just used some 18 gauge wire and covered it with modeling chocolate. And this is why I like modeling chocolate as opposed to fondant for this job, because it melds together so nicely and you don't see any seams. The trick to making sure that that handle is really stable is making sure that the 18 gauge wire actually elongates right into the center of the cake. And I'm just adding a tiny amount of petal dust here just to make sure that that pink color is incorporated in the white as well. Give it a good steam. Yes, you can steam your modeling chocolate to get rid of any excess icing sugar or cornstarch that you used.
So flowery and gardeny. And it's a teacup themed. And Grandma, I love you.
Well, that is what my daughter thought of our finished cake, and I really think that this project would be perfect for Mother's Day. I realize I'm a little bit late on that front, but if you have a tea lover in your life as well, this would be really, really cute. And it's a great size. I would say that that base is a 4-inch, and on top, that could feed quite a bit still. I think that this would easily feed 4 to 6 people, no problem. I really highly recommend Satin Ice's modeling chocolate, especially if you're going to be making things like carved cakes, because you're going to be able to meld things together a lot more easily. And pop out things just like that little handle there are a lot easier to make with modeling chocolate as opposed to fondant. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading weekly, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. And if you want your own modeling chocolate from Satin Ice, be sure to head on over to Instagram for our big giveaway. Bye!